So I have a question for those of you who like work in your retail or, you know, grocery stores and stuff like that. What does the family friendly checkout line mean? I mean, I go to all of the lines, but I'm wondering A, if I should be going to family friendly because I have the kids. People in the other lines are not like unfriendly to the family. So I've always wondered what that means. Like, what is the point of that line? If someone could explain that to me, I would forever appreciate it. We're not talking about grocery stores or making grocery store soaps or anything like that. Cool idea, though. I will tell you what we are doing in just a minute, but before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudzers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for day 178 of 365 days of soap and day 10 of 10 days of thanks. And today, we are doing what we did yesterday, because we're making holiday soaps, but actually very seasonal specific soaps. But again, they're not mine. They're for a wholesale account, and all of my wholesale accounts wanted to continue on with the things that they do. And so that's great. So we're going to make the gingerbread latte soap for one of my wholesale accounts today. We will talk about the soap itself. We will also show you kind of a bigger process. Less of a big process than what yesterday was, though, because you guys have been wanting the longer, whatever. Anyway, let's get to the video. We can talk about gingerbread latte. We can talk about Christmas. We can talk about the holidays. We can do all the weird things that we normally do, you know, in the video. So I lied to you guys yesterday. We're not doing big batch today. And you know, I'm sorry for the lie, but I apologize for nothing else, really. Because Taylor Swift is awesome. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And you know, it's my channel, so I guess I just get to do whatever I want. Don't worry, I'm not going to change my channel into doing nothing but talking about Taylor Swift, because that would be weird. I have a lot of other interests in life that I also like to talk about. So, you know, you get subjected to all of that, I guess. So we are making the gingerbread latte soap today, and I guess I will talk to you more about big batch making so it makes some kind of sense in a better way today, because I swear to God, I thought that's what we were doing today. We're not. We're going to cut a lot of them, but I'm just showing you just one 24 bar batch with this. So it's about a 6-pound batch, right? So here's the thing with big batch making. Like yesterday, what I said was, you know, it's an easy way to do it. You have your recipe for a 12-bar batch, and you need to make 72. Well, you multiply that shit by 6, and you're good to go. Yeah, no, those maths work. But another obvious way to do it is calculate the volume of your mold or your molds and how much you... This is where it gets complicated, because I don't know your molds. I don't know your life. But if you've been using my recipes, that matte gold is delightful. If you've been using my recipes, then I know that you have about, you know, I said all day yesterday between 54 and 58 ounces. It's like 56-ish ounces, I'm pretty sure. Jesus Christ. Look at all of the very specific terms I'm throwing out here. Like, I'm a subject matter expert in nothing. It's literally 56 ounces for the recipes that I give you. So, when making lots of soap, but you only have like a mold that holds 56 ounces or 112 ounces in the case of this particular pour that we're messing with right now, well, that's when you go to your scale and you're weighing out the soap that you need, the batter that you need to fill that one mold. So I can fill this pot all the way to the brim, and I have done. I've showed you on the channel. I have done in year one, but that means nothing unless you actually measure it out so you know that you're getting, the right amount of soap into each mold. And so you take it to the scale, right? So going to the scales on something like this, right? Like, let's say you have 336 ounces of soap in front of you, which would be how much soap batter you would need to make 72 bars, like we talked about yesterday. Well, the way that you divide that or even tackle that, as I said yesterday, super depends on what your design even is. For the design that we did yesterday, it was essentially a 2-section design. So it was, the bottom half is a solid brown color, and the top half is a red and white swirl in equal parts for the red and the white. And so for the first iteration of that, I weighed out 56 ounces into each Pyrex, and then that's what I used to make the base of the soap. And then for the second part, I still went to the scale and continued to use said scale while I was doing my swirls, so my white and my red within the Pyrex itself, and I stopped once there was 56 ounces in the mold, because that's how much it takes to fill this mold. And I did that for every other, whatever. So, but in other situations, like this one, for example, the soaps that I made for this that were done off camera were not nearly as precise. And I guess that's why I didn't film any of that or show you any of that and use this as a big batch, because it really is, for something like this, still 72 bars that I did for these guys, right? But because it's a swirl pattern technique thing, I did not have a good delineation line. There was no real place where I could just break the soap itself into manageable mathematical parts and pour that part and then do a second pour. It was all of it was ready to go, and it was just a variation of this. I separated some white out. This is not a precise pour at all. Like, this is an eyeball pour. And a lot of my soaps are like that. They are eyeball pours. If I am looking at 336 ounces of soap batter and I know that I want it to mostly be a gingerbread color with just a hint of white throughout it, well, 80% of that 336 ounces is going to be the gingerbread color. So we're looking at like 260-ish ounces of soap that's gingerbread, which means I'm only pouring off, 40, 50 ounces of soap for the white. This is all making sense, right? It all depends. And I don't know. Okay, so we are going to cut this and we will talk more about big batches in maybe a way that makes sense to like new soap makers. So here are all 3 loaves, all done. And I just gave you the footage for pouring one of these. But for the other 2, I poured them together. And again, there was no real rhyme or reason for that. So there was no point for me to chunk this out into different, pores, because it's all just a swirl technique. And so what that meant was I was working with 48 bars worth of soap at the same time. And that for me really is an eyeball thing. I can't give you good information on, it's an eyeball thing for all of it. It's an eyeball thing for how much white goes into the mold. It's also an eyeball thing for how much soap goes into each mold. It was not nearly as precise as, what I did yesterday, because swirls. And this is just what I've sort of settled on after having done this for, like a bajillion years. I am okay with eyeballing, much like you are probably okay with eyeballing any number of things in life. Cooking, for example. If you are a really good baker, do you get out your measuring cups and spoons and stuff every time? Or do you just kind of like dump a little bit of baking powder into your hand and say, oh, it's about a tablespoon, and continue on with life? So that's where I kind of am with something like this. Now, going to like a more, like a stricter design, like a layered design. Layers are a great example. Based on your first batch of soap, so the test batch, the weight needed for each layer. Let's say you're doing a 6-layer bar, right? And you have that, and we're doing a dozen bars. So that each layer is like 9.3 ounces of soap batter. You know that because you kept your records for that first test batch. Well, then you just take that, and let's say you want to make 72 bars instead of 12, and you just multiply that by 6. And so that's your recipe for the first layer. 56 total ounces of soap batter, which for a 6-layer bar, conveniently, that's my example, and it all perfectly lines up to be a 3-pound batch of soap. So 38 ounces of oil, 12-ish ounces of water, 5.5-ish ounces of lye. So that's what you do. If you're making a 6-bar rainbow soap, for example, the first color would be red or purple, depending on how you're building your bar. And that's the first total batch. And then you can chunk it out into 6 different soap batches that then get poured. And big batch soap making is, I guess the point with all of this is big batch soap making is not nearly as complicated as a lot of people seem to think or want to promote it as, because most of my big batch soaps are made kind of just like this. I have a couple colors, and I sort of guesstimate or eyeball based on what I reasonably know I need to do within a 1-pound batch, and I just multiply that. I just make that bigger. So instead of 9 ounces, it's 56 ounces. And you separate everything out for whatever. It's not that hard, is what I'm trying to and absolutely failing to say. But I also understand that it's scary, because when you start working with bigger batches of soap, the potential for everything going sideways, well, it's the same potential, but the amount of money that you've put into all of it, wildly bigger, right? I feel like we've shown you enough on the channel in the past year and a half how even when a soap pour goes sideways, it's still not a failed batch. Like, if the design didn't quite work out, that's okay. Nobody needs to know that but you. Like, keep soaping. Try to take that extra stressor, that added stressor of, oh, I'm working with a lot more soap batters out of the equation, and just approach it like you would a smaller batch, with the confidence that you would go into a smaller batch with. And that's really going to take the majority of the, problems and the potential gremlins out of the equation. Outside of just, again, multiplying your soap batch that fits in these dimensions by the number of soap batches you ultimately want to make. So that's just easy basic maths. The secondary thing that I think really makes people not want to do big batch soaping is the fear of ruining, 100 bars versus 12. Well, don't be afraid. If you can do the 12, you can also do the 100. Just don't go in expecting to be messing anything up. You're good. Everything's fine. Also, these soaps, wild. They will get a little bit darker, but 3 different swirls, again, with this guy, because, fun. And they're all gingerbread latte. They're all amazing. And you can get all of them at a dropintheoceanshop.com. That is day 178. And there it is, the gingerbread latte soap, and those will continue to discolor pretty significantly. In a couple days, actually, I will be showing you a stamping video, and it's just going to be kind of a longer form talking about history of some sort thing. But I will be stamping these soaps, so you will be able to see just how much they discolor once the air gets to them and they have an opportunity to do so. So they are very, very beautiful. If you are interested in these soaps, you can't get them from me. You need to go to a dropintheoceanshop.com to pick them up from her. So that would be excellent. Go show her some love for sure. If you're interested in participating in the 10th and final day of 10 Days of Thanks, it's too late. You had your chance, unless you're already subscribed to the newsletter. And if you are, that coupon code, that item, will be dropping at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today. So you can snag one of the 10 of the final 10 items that we've been doing throughout this entire 10 Days of Thanks. Thank you guys so much for being a part of 10 Days of Thanks. Holy shit. It's such a whirlwind each and every year. It's wild, it's chaotic, it's fun. I love it. I love you. I hope you guys had as much fun as I did. It's the season of thanks. And thank you. I'm grateful for you. Every day. But 10 Days of Thanks is how I really drive that home in obnoxious and really chaotic ways. So there's that. And it's now going to be over. And we move on to all of the other things. So we will be doing a live on Small Business Saturday. I will be showing off my new haircut and probably partaking in some adult libations to celebrate the official kickoff of, the crazy season. But really, based on what you guys have been doing for the last 10 days, I'm almost cleared out. So my season might actually end a little early this year, and I might get to spend some more time with my family, which would be excellent. But for Small Business Saturday, the family wants to spend some time with you. So we will be here on Small Business Saturday for a live, doing the thing. Grab your snacks, grab your drinks, grab your hot cocoa, grab it, whatever it is that you partake in. Come join us. Thank you for having joined me today for another round of 365 Days of Soap, the last day of 10 Days of Thanks. I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another round of soapy fun. Bye.